Tim Cook says AI will force higher prices, OpenAI copies, Palantir's playbook, Midjourney enters healthcare, and world leaders debate the future of artificial intelligence at the G7 summit. Welcome to DJAMGAMIND Daily AI Intelligence for June 18th, 2026. I'm Anna. This podcast is researched and produced by Etienne Noman, senior software engineer and passionate soccer dad from Canada. Today, we're seeing signs that artificial intelligence is entering an entirely new phase. For years, the industry focused on building bigger and smarter models. But now, the conversation is shifting toward deployment, integration, and real-world value creation. Apple is warning about AI-driven chip shortages. OpenAI is moving into consulting. Midjourney is attempting to reinvent medical imaging. And governments are debating who should control access to the world's most powerful AI systems. We'll also explore why AI adoption continues to rise despite falling public trust, why expertise matters more than coding skills when working with AI agents, and why the biggest opportunity in artificial intelligence may no longer be the models themselves. Let's unravel the future.
Before we jump in today, a quick reminder that this AI News Deep Dive is researched and produced by Etienne Newman, a senior software engineer from Canada. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single deep dive. All right, so usually when you think about a medical diagnosis, it's pretty binary. Clean.
Right. Very digital. You get an x-ray, you see the break, that's it.
Exactly. But I want you to imagine stepping into a high-end spa in San Francisco's Union Square, right? You lower yourself into this warm water bath, and 500,000 ultrasonic sensors map your internal organs down to a fraction of a millimeter in 60 seconds.
It sounds like sci-fi.
Right. And now imagine that the machine doing this wasn't built by, GE or a legacy medical company. It was built by a tech startup that is famous for generating fake AI pictures of astronauts on Discord.
Yeah, the Midjourney pivot.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It is. And we're going to get to that, but it highlights our core theme for you today. We are leaving the era of software just living in a vacuum, right? On a server somewhere. And we are crashing headfirst into a very messy, incredibly expensive physical reality.
We really are. I mean, for the last few years, the entire tech industry was just obsessed with one singular goal, which was building the smartest artificial brain in a jar.
Right, the smartest model.
Exactly. But looking at our stack of sources for today's deep dive, it is undeniably clear that the vacuum has popped. The intelligence is spilling out into the real world.
Which means we are officially in what we're calling the deployment era. And by the end of our conversation today, you are going to understand the underlying mechanics of this massive shift. We're synthesizing executive interviews, breaking G7 news, user studies from Anthropic and Pew, all of it.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack.
So much. We're going to explore why these cutting-edge AI labs are suddenly acting like legacy corporate consulting firms, right? And why the physical hardware supply chain is triggering a geopolitical bottleneck that Apple's CEO is calling a 100-year flood. And of course, how an AI image generator is suddenly building spas filled with water bath medical scanners.
Well, it all has to start with a physical foundation. Because before you can deploy a digital intelligence into the world, you need the actual tangible silicon to run it.
Right.
And right now, the global supply chain is just completely buckling under the pressure.
Yeah, I want to look at this unprecedented warning Apple's CEO, Tim Cook, just gave to the Wall Street Journal. Because he flat out said that consumer price hikes on Apple products are unavoidable.
Which you never hear Apple say.
Never. And why? Because the cost of memory and storage chips has quadrupled over the past year, 4 times the price. And Cook says it is solely due to the demand from AI data centers.
To really understand the gravity of that, you have to look at Apple's historical position. For over a decade, Apple was the undisputed king of the global supply chain.
Yeah, they called the shots.
Exactly. They dictated the terms. They would buy up factory capacity years in advance. And now, Tim Cook is publicly admitting that Apple actually has to wait in line behind AI hyperscalers.
Wait, let's define hyperscalers for a second for anyone listening, because we throw that word around a lot.
Yeah.
We're talking about the massive Godzilla-sized cloud providers, right? Microsoft, Amazon, Google.
Right. The only ones with deep enough pockets to buy these chips by the hundreds of thousands.
Okay, so why do they need so many chips all of a sudden?
It comes down to a technical process called inference. So training an AI model is like it's like an athlete practicing for the Olympics. It's incredibly hard work, but it ends, right?
Right.
Inference is the actual performance. Every single time you ask a chatbot a question, The model has to load billions of mathematical parameters into active memory just to calculate the answer.
Wow, every single time.
Every time.
Yeah.
And it requires an ungodly amount of very specific memory silicon. So the hyperscalers are essentially vacuuming up all the global fabrication capacity just to keep the chatbots thinking.
Okay, let's unpack this. Is this essentially the 1970s oil crisis, but for compute power?
Yeah.
Like, are chips just the new oil?
That is the perfect analogy. And just like oil, whoever controls the refineries controls the global economy. I mean, it turns a consumer supply chain issue into a critical national security issue almost overnight.
Which gives a lot of context to this massive onshore pivot we're seeing in the U.S. Just recently, President Trump announced that Apple is partnering with Intel to design and build chips inside the United States.
Yeah, the 18A process.
Right. The reporting points to Apple desperately seeking a secondary source beyond TSMC in Taiwan, likely utilizing that new Intel 18A manufacturing process.
So 18A is just Intel's internal name for their next generation chip manufacturing. The A stands for angstrom. So they are trying to shrink the transistors down so small that you literally measure them in individual atoms.
Wow.
Yeah, it is a highly experimental, deeply expensive Hail Mary for Intel to reclaim the manufacturing crown.
So just looking impartially at the geopolitics here, the Trump administration taking a roughly 10% stake in Intel and committing about $10 billion to its factories, that is essentially the United States recognizing that if compute is the new oil, you cannot rely entirely on a foreign supply chain to pump it, right?
Exactly. You need the refineries on home soil, but securing the hardware creates a secondary problem because if you build the physical refineries, how do you protect the digital product they produce?
Oh, that's interesting. And this brings us to the G7 summit in France. We've got the heads, the most powerful tech labs, Anthropic's Dario Amodei, Google DeepMind's Demis Hassabis standing in front of world leaders actively pitching a U.S.-led global AI coalition.
Which is a huge shift.
Huge. They're asking for structured access rules to frontier models. They want strict chip export bans that entirely exclude China. OpenAI's Sam Altman is even calling for a global testing standards forum. I mean, why are the Silicon Valley disruptors suddenly crossing the Atlantic to basically beg for a global regulatory cartel?
Well, what's fascinating here is that from an economic perspective, regulation is the ultimate moat.
Oh, okay. Explain that.
If the barrier to entry for building a frontier AI model suddenly requires, G7 government clearance, multi-billion-dollar security audits, and global export compliance, well, then a scrappy startup with 3 guys in a garage just can't compete with you anymore.
You've locked them out.
Yeah, exactly. You have cemented a monopoly by convincing the government to pull up the ladder behind you.
But building that wall creates incredible friction, right? We're seeing this play out right now in what the sources are calling the Mythos standoff. Anthropic has been clashing heavily with the U.S. Commerce Department over export restrictions that literally forced Anthropic to take their top models offline for international users.
Yeah, the Commerce Department essentially warned Anthropic against distributing their Mythos model to, quote, foreign persons.
Right, and according to the Washington Post, the list of companies with access to Mythos had ballooned, and it included a South Korean firm with suspected ties to China. The U.S. government stepped in, and internally, Anthropic employees were furious.
Oh, yeah, the leaked messages.
The leaked messages show them complaining they're being bullied based on bad vibes. I mean, I'm struggling to see why the Commerce Department cares this much about a chatbot API.
Because they don't view it as a chatbot. This is the fundamental disconnect right now. The AI researchers still view themselves as open science pioneers pushing the boundaries of software. But the U.S. government views frontier AI models functionally closer to uranium enrichment tools.
Wow, uranium.
Yeah, they see it as a dual-use technology that could, design bioweapons or launch automated cyber attacks. They're treating it like a pure defense asset.
So the geopolitical borders are Loctite, and the hardware supply chain is completely maxed out. But here is the wild twist in the story. The raw software models. The actual brains these companies are fighting so hard to protect and regulate. They are actually becoming commodities.
It is a total race to the bottom right now. I mean, if your frontier model and my frontier model can both ace the bar exam and write perfect Python code, the model itself ceases to be a unique competitive advantage. It's essentially tap water.
Which totally explains the absolute desperation we are seeing in the talent wars. Look at Noam Shazeer. He was the co-lead of Google's Gemini project. Google paid $2.7 billion just 2 years ago in an acqui-hire specifically to get him and his team in-house.
$2.7 billion for one team.
Yes, and he just walked out the door to join OpenAI.
A nearly $3 billion retention strategy that just evaporated the moment the vesting period ended.
Unbelievable.
But OpenAI needs that talent because they are locked in an arms race, and the thing is they are bleeding cash at an unsustainable rate.
The numbers and the sources are genuinely terrifying. OpenAI burned $3.7 billion in the first quarter alone. And against that, their projected revenue for all of 2026 is only $5.7 billion.
Yeah, the math does not look good.
You don't need to be a math genius to see that formula leads to a brick wall. If I'm Sam Altman, I realize I can't survive by just selling a $20 a month subscription to college students, and I can't just sell basic API access.
And let's clarify what API access means here. It's when a developer swipes a credit card to plug OpenAI's engine into their own app, paying fractions of a penny per word. It's great for startups, but it doesn't generate the massive, stable cash flow you need to offset billions in data center costs.
Exactly. To survive, they need Fortune 500 companies to write them $50 million checks. But a legacy CEO isn't going to buy a raw AI model unless someone holds their hand, integrates it into their messy company data, and proves that it saves money.
Which is exactly why we are seeing the consulting pivot. OpenAI just launched a partner network, right? They're committing $150 million to certify 300,000 corporate consultants by the end of 2026.
So we're talking McKinsey, BCG, Bain.
Exactly. And Anthropic is doing the exact same thing, building a $100 million network.
So it's no longer about selling the smartest brain in a jar. It's about paying an army of consultants to teach corporations how to actually plug the brain in.
They are wholesale renting Palantir's playbook. For years, Palantir built its massive valuation not just on software, but on forward-deployed engineers.
Right.
You send your people deep into a client's company, you map out their legacy supply chain databases, and you entangle your AI into their daily operations.
Until the integration is so deep that ripping you out would paralyze the company, the corporate contract becomes the moat, not the AI itself.
It is deeply ironic, honestly. For the last 3 years, the AI labs genuinely believed their technology was going to replace human consultants.
Oh, entirely.
And now they're realizing that the unglamorous, slow, human work of enterprise integration is actually a trillion-dollar industry, and they desperately need a piece of it to survive their own cash burn.
So we've got corporations pushing this technology down from the top. But let's look at the psychology on the ground for a second. How are actual everyday humans reacting to and using this deployed tech? We have some brand new data from Pew Research that highlights this massive psychological paradox.
The paradox of adoption versus trust. It's fascinating.
It is. So according to Pew, AI chatbots just crossed a major milestone. 50% of U.S. adults are now using them.
Wow, half the country.
Half. A quarter use them every single day. ChatGPT dominates at 44%, Gemini at 24%, Claude at 6%. We are adopting this faster than the smartphone. But pessimism is skyrocketing. Nearly 40% of people expect AI to make society worse over the next 2 decades.
So the lines on the graph are moving in complete opposite directions. Usage is going up, trust is going down.
And the most startling stat. The under 30 demographic uses AI the most, but trusts it the least. Only 14% of young users see a positive societal payoff.
What is the psychology there? We are utterly dependent on a technology we fundamentally do not trust.
It is very much like fast food, you know.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
We know the industrial food complex is bad for the ecosystem. We don't really trust the ingredients in the burger, but the immediate convenience is so overwhelming that we use it anyway. And you see this forced convenience everywhere. Look at Mozilla publishing a desperate new roadmap for Firefox.
Oh man, the Firefox update?
Yeah, the browser is bleeding market share, so their strategy is just to slap a built-in VPN, customizable shortcuts, and a basic chatbot on it. Tech companies are bolting AI onto their products whether the user actually trusts it or not.
But if we don't trust the AI to run things on autopilot, what stands out to you here? Like, what is its actual value to a human worker? This is where an incredible study from Anthropic comes in, and it completely reframes the labor conversation.
It really does. They analyzed 400,000 sessions of people using Claude Code, their coding assistant. And they found the holy grail of human-AI interaction.
They found that domain expertise overwhelmingly beats coding skill.
Let's linger on that, because it goes against everything we've assumed for the last year about AI just replacing software engineers.
Right. So in a typical session, the human user is making 70% of the planning decisions, while the AI handles 80% of the execution. It's not an autopilot, it's a power steering system.
I love that. A
Hey.
power steering system.
Yeah, because the AI can write the syntax flawlessly, right? But it has no idea what to build or why it actually matters in a business context.
And the stats back that up perfectly. Intermediate and expert users had a 28 to 33% success rate in completing complex coding tasks. Novices only had a 15% success rate. And here's the real aha moment. Lawyers, managers, scientists, people with zero coding background were matching professional software engineers on coding tasks.
Which completely flips the labor market on its head. For 20 years, the universal advice was learn to code. The Anthropic study proves that coding is no longer a core skill, it is just a translation layer.
Wow.
The actual valuable skill is knowing what needs to be built. A lawyer who understands the precise logical flow of a contract can outcode a junior software developer now because the AI handles the translation into Python. The ceiling of AI isn't the technology anymore. The ceiling is the domain expertise of the human using it.
And if deep human domain expertise is the future, then AI cannot stay trapped in a chat window on a laptop. It has to move into the physical world to map human reality.
This is the push to physical computing. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang recently noted that AI demands new social norms. He compared it to how the invention of the car forced society to invent crosswalks and traffic lights.
Right, the world had to physically change.
Exactly. The physical world has to adapt to the intelligence.
We're seeing in real time. Snap CEO Evan Spiegel just unveiled Specs, which are these augmented reality glasses that Snap has been quietly building for 12 years. And he isn't pitching them as a smartphone accessory. He's pitching them as the replacement for the smartphone, literally layering computing over the physical world.
And then you have startups like Odyssey, right? They just raised $310 million to build world models. They aren't generating text essays. They are generating real-time physics and human behavioral simulations. They are trying to give AI an understanding of gravity, spatial relationships, physical presence.
But the absolute peak of this physical divergence, the story that made me stop in my tracks while reading these sources, is what's happening in medicine. We already know AI software is getting good. Diagnostic tools like Google's Amy and Mira are now reliably surpassing human doctors in certain specific diagnoses.
Yeah, the software is incredible.
But software isn't enough anymore. Enter Midjourney.
Midjourney. The company famously known for letting people type text prompts to generate hyper-realistic digital images.
Right, a purely digital software company. But they just announced Midjourney Medical and a physical hardware device called the Midjourney Scanner. Honestly, my first thought was that this was a joke. How do you jump from digital image generation to physical medical hardware?
It sounds absurd until you look at the background of their founder, David Holtz. People forget he isn't just an AI software guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he has a PhD track in math, he worked at NASA, and he founded Leap Motion, which was a company that built incredibly complex hand-tracking hardware for virtual reality.
Yeah.
Apple even tried to buy them. He is a hardware engineer at heart.
Okay, that makes so much more sense. And he brought that hardware obsession to Midjourney because the scanner they built is a full-body ultrasonic tomography machine. You step onto a platform, and you are slowly lowered at 2 inches per second into a warm water bath.
Into water.
Yes. Surrounding you in this water is a ring of 500,000 tiny squares, basically sensors. They emit ultrasonic waves and record the microscopic ripples that bounce back off your internal organs.
So it's mapping the physical human body using sound and water instead of lasers or radiation.
Exactly. It creates a 3D biological map of your entire body down to a fraction of a millimeter in just 60 seconds. It competes with MRI and CT scans, but it's faster, cheaper, and uses zero radiation.
Wow. So you could safely do it regularly.
You could do it every week. They are targeting preventative care, finding cancers, cardiovascular issues, and organ diseases before you ever feel a single symptom.
This is the ultimate realization of the deployment era. I mean, the pinnacle of artificial intelligence isn't a better chatbot that summarizes your emails. It is a highly advanced physical hardware machine that maps your biological reality to predict and prevent disease.
And they are literally rolling this out in physical spaces. Next year, they are opening Midjourney spas in San Francisco to house these machines. Think about the journey we've tracked today. We started with the sheer physical limitations of Silicon Apple, waiting in line for chips just to run the models.
Right.
We saw nations drawing geopolitical borders around that software, treating it like uranium. We watched OpenAI realize that intelligence without physical corporate integration is worthless. And we end up here with AI stepping out of the monitor and literally scanning the human body in a physical water bath.
The deployment era is here,
Yeah.
and it is undeniably aggressively physical. But as we navigate this new landscape, I want to leave you with one final mind-bending fact from our sources to mull over.
Let's hear it.
While we are busy trying to integrate AI into our physical world, the nation of Estonia has just started granting actual digital ID numbers to AI agents. They are doing this to securely control the agent's access to government and corporate systems.
Wait, they are issuing government ID numbers to software?
Yes. And think about the second-order effect of that. If AI is entering our physical world, taking over our medical diagnostics and running our corporate workflows, what happens when your AI consultant legally has the exact same digital rights, access, and identity infrastructure as you do?
Oh, man, that is the question of the decade right there. The water is getting incredibly muddy, but the deployment is happening whether we are ready for it or not. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the world around you, keep looking for the physical impacts of these digital shifts, and we'll see you next time.
That concludes today's DJAMGAMIND Daily AI Intelligence Briefing. The strategic takeaway is simple. The AI revolution is entering its deployment phase. The biggest breakthroughs are no longer confined to chatbots and benchmarks. They're appearing in healthcare, enterprise consulting, robotics, diagnostics, and physical infrastructure. And as models become increasingly commoditized, expertise, trust, and execution are becoming the new competitive advantages. The future of artificial intelligence won't be defined solely by who builds the smartest systems. It will be defined by who puts intelligence to work. Thank you for listening. This podcast is researched and produced by Etienne Newman, senior software engineer and passionate soccer dad from Canada. If you enjoy these daily intelligence briefings, please follow the DJAMGAMIND Intelligence channel and share today's episode with colleagues, friends, and fellow AI enthusiasts. I'm Anna. Stay informed, stay adaptable, and keep unraveling the future.
And before you go, if your company is building the tools that power the workflows we talked about today, I'd love to showcase them to this audience. We don't just run ads. We build technical simulations that prove your value. Let's build something together. Visit jamgamind.com/partners to get started. Until next time, keep building.